About 3.5 years ago, I was working as a corporate scientist and I decided to start this business. At the time though, I was already working 10 to 12-hour days trying to launch a genome sequencer on a very tight timeline. And starting this business required me to work 20 to 30 hours more each week. Now, I was super consistent with my training and diet. I was going hard in the gym, meal prepping multiple times a week, but I started to gain weight in my midsection like crazy. And overall, my body was so much more inflamed. I felt like I was working so hard, but I was going in the opposite direction. This is when I started to realize that working out and eating well is just one piece of the puzzle. The third and most important piece, in my opinion, is stress. I want you to imprint this in your brain. Your body will only adapt to your training and nutrition if it has the capacity to do so. And the biggest levers that affect capacity is stress and recovery. The reason why I made stress one of the main pillars of Soph's lab is because I work with a lot of very ambitious and high achieving women. And these type of women tend to be chronically stressed. Unfortunately, you can be doing everything right with your eating and training, but if you are constantly in a state of stress, you can pretty much undo 90% of your effort. And not so fun fact, but stress affects women differently. We are a little bit more sensitive, especially because of our menstrual cycle. Think about during the week before and the week during your period, when you might feel a little bit more reactive to stressors. So in this phase of Soph's lab, we're gonna work on a few different things, tips to handle stress in your day-to-day life, and how to effectively manage your sleep schedule. Now, let's get into a little bit of the science. So there are two main systems that your body has to handle stress. One is your sympathetic nervous system. This is a part of your nervous system that allows you to handle acute stressors. So this would be prepping for a major deadline at work or doing a high intensity workout. This nervous system is supposed to be active in your day-to-day life, but the issue is when it is constantly turned on. Now, back in the day, this stress response system was only active when we were running away from the tiger or hunting for our next meal. But our sympathetic nervous system is now constantly turned on because of modern day living. Deadlines, relationships, work stress, constantly feeling like you're not enough. Those all can activate your sympathetic nervous system. And when this system is constantly on, it can affect things like our motivation and our sleep, which are key parts of recovery. We should be able to tap into the other branch of our autonomic nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system. This nervous system allows us to rest, digest, to be creative, and to do our best work. Now, the other physiological stress response system is called the HPA axis, and this is when cortisol comes into the conversation. Social media gurus will tell you that if you're constantly stressed, that means your cortisol is constantly elevated, and that is actually not always the case. Chronic stress causes your cortisol rhythm to be irregular. So you may feel really tired in the morning and wired at night. And this is because your cortisol is low in the morning when it's supposed to be high, and it's high in the evening when it's supposed to be low. And so a lot of women with this cortisol rhythm tend to be really wired and unable to sleep at night. So in Soph's lab, in order to work on stress, we're gonna start with having you understand why stress blocks your progress, because it's important that you understand the why behind what we're doing. And two, we're gonna work on trying to regulate these different systems. So restoring balance to your cortisol rhythm and also learning to tap into your autonomic nervous system and get out of that sympathetic nervous system overdrive. I just threw a lot of information at you, so please let me know if you have any questions about this. I will send you over some interesting resources, and I will talk more about how exactly stress affects your progress in the next video.